Hello and welcome to News Now. I am Figdalia Aguncha. The Nigerian Army says its troops have killed 37 bandits and rescued 80 hostages in Benin Maru local government area of Zamfara State. Acting Information Officer of Operation Sharandaji, Major Clement Abiade, in a statement, said the operations were carried out between February 4 and 14, 2019. He added that the victims rescued include men, women and children who were held hostage in the Burum forest. The army also says 6 suspected bandits and their allies were arrested after the operations, while several weapons, ammunition and rustled cattle were recovered from their camps. Unfortunately, 6 soldiers lost their lives during that operation. Well, to electoral matters now, the All Progressives Congress is demanding more explanation from the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) for the cancellation of last Saturday's presidential and National Assembly election. The party, rising from a caucus meeting on Monday, says INEC has shown gross incompetence and bias in the electoral process, just as President Muhammadu Buhari read a riot act to election manipulators. TV360's Tunji Oye now reports.
For more than 2 hours, party stalwarts of the All Progressive Congress held a caucus meeting inside this hall. Obviously, it is an emergency meeting given the fallout of INEC's inability to conduct the presidential election as scheduled last Saturday. Now, top of the agenda of the meeting is the postponement of the election. Also, INEC's directive to political parties to stop campaigns and how to ensure that Nigeria do not have staggered elections. Adams Oshiomhole, APC National Chairman, expressly revealed that he is in support of INEC Chairman Professor Yakub Mahmood stepping down and a new INEC boss appointed.
Primary purpose of today's meeting is not to lament all of the incompetencies of INEC, the mischief that we have seen, the collusion in many quarters, and the double speak that characterize their briefings. Much more important than that is that we have called this meeting to give our people hope and renew our commitment to democracy, our renewed commitment to free, fair, and credible elections. I can put my hand on the Holy Quran that INEC leadership knew that they were going to postpone the election. They shared this information with the People's Democratic Party and advised them not to waste their resources, while pretending to us that they are on top of the situation. Anytime you raise observation, they are on top of the situation. But actually, as we now know, they were on top of this arrangement that was meant to create confusion across the country. INEC is not in a position to make laws. The laws made by our parliament are superior to the opinion of INEC chairman, with all due respect to his office. The extra provisions of the law is clear. When you postpone election, and it has happened before, the law says you are entitled to renew campaign up to 24 hours before the date of election. It didn't say that you will stop election on the 15th of February, regardless of when the election will actually take place. When elections stop, is determined by when it is expected to commence.
President Muhammadu Buhari, in his address, appreciated members of his party for their doggedness and loyalty. He, however, has these strong words for electoral fraudsters.
I have briefed the law enforcement agencies and the military. They have identified hotspots, flashpoints. They should be prepared to move. They too, we have made as much arrangement as possible and resourceful provided as much as the country can afford it. And that anybody who decides to snatch boxes or lead thugs to disturb it, maybe there's the last local action you will take. I really give the military and the police the ruthless. We are not going to be blamed that we want to rig election. I want Nigerians to be respected. Let them vote whoever they want across the parties. I'm not afraid of that. I have gone to, as you said, the whole 36 states and Abuja. I went round. I think I have got enough supporters across the country to look after me. So I am going to warn anybody who thinks he has enough influence in his locality to lead a body of facts, to snatch boxes, or to disturb the voting system. He will do it at the expense of his own life.
The riot act has been read by the president, though this statement will surely be another subject of debate for opposition parties. But in any way, the message has been passed. Those who try to undermine the process may eventually have to pay with their lives, according to President Buhari. From Abuja, Tunji Oye, TV360 News.
Well, the shift in the election date has also drawn reactions from the Arewa Initiative for Good Governance. The group, however, is in support of the postponement of the polls, stressing that both dates will give INEC ample time to correct shortcomings in the presidential poll. Secretary of the group, Sadiq Gombe, says elections will be more credible with the postponement.
Initially, the filters were having that INEC want to extend the election with 3 days. If you cannot plan in 4 years, you are entrapped in this kind of problems and issues. And you are now thinking it's just 78 hours or 48 hours that can be able to sort out your problem. I think INEC will have made a mistake if they go by the issue of 2 days or so Monday or Tuesday. So I think the allowance of 1 week is good enough for them, particularly that they shifted the governorship. Because our concern is that if they shift it with 1 week and they refuse to shift the governorship election, they leave it in to the 1 week. Meaning you are going to round up the elections around Tuesday or even Wednesday, because even presidential election of 2015 was rounded off on Tuesday. So you see, you have only, if you round it on Tuesday or Wednesday, you have only Thursday and Friday again to go into governorship, whereby you need some allowance to see whether you have problems here and there, so that you can leverage on the experience of the first election to now improve on the second and tackle most of the problems you encountered during the presidential election. So that is what informed INEC to shift also the governorship, which I think is okay.
While still reacting to the election postponement is former Commissioner of Police in Lagos State and elder statesman Abubakar Sav. Sav is accusing former President Olusegun Obasanjo of colluding with INEC officials to rig the elections in favor of the PDP. Sav, who is the president of the National Front of Nigeria, made the accusation in Abuja on Monday. It says Obasanjo is doing everything possible to ensure that President Muhammadu Buhari does not get a second term.
Recall that prior to this, a former president, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, cobbled together several alliances and coalitions that failed woefully, like every other thing he has ever laid hands on. Even though Chief Obasanjo had in the past evoked God's wrath on himself if he ever returned to PDP, he tore his membership card to seal the curse. He has since fully returned to the PDP and is now its most popular gladiator, save the party's presidential candidate, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. The compromised and predetermined position of these so-called observers has been confirmed by several actions they have taken. Instead of working as independent countries, they coordinate to issue statements that are solely intended to erode the public perception, INEC, to criminalize the federal government and to criminalize Atiku Aliyu as a president in waiting, even when elections have not been held.
Well, the People's Democratic Party says President Muhammadu Buhari's death threat to ballot paper snatchers is a license to kill which should not come from any leader of any civilized nation. PDP spokesperson Kola Ologbadiyan says the president's comment is a direct call for jungle justice. Well, this came after the president said anyone who attempts to snatch ballot paper during election will not will do so at the expense of their lives. The party has also summoned an emergency National Executive Committee meeting tomorrow. The meeting, which is expected to be presided over by the national chairman of the PDP, Uche Secondus, is set to hold in Abuja on Tuesday. Well, the Minister of State for Aviation, Hadi Sirika, has dismissed claims by INEC that bad weather affected the distribution of election materials, contributing to the postponement. Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Mahmoud Yakubu, had blamed the postponement of the presidential and National Assembly elections on bad weather, which affected flight operations. This, he said, prevented the electoral body from moving election materials to various states. While reacting to this via his Twitter handle, Sirika said all airports were directed to open 24 hours during the election period and the weather was good for flight operations. While still on the postponed election, Nigerians have continued to react to the development. Well, this latest reaction is coming from Kaduna State, where some residents condemned the sudden shift while others expressed support for INEC.
Honestly, I'm not happy. And the INEC chairman, he announced very late. He will have announced the postponement of the election at least 2 days to the date of election. A lot of people, they've traveled home for them to go and cast their votes. But unfortunately, he announced the postponement of the election to 30-something p.m., which is bad. So I'm not really happy. And we, the marketers, we are supposed to be in our markets to sell our goods. We couldn't come to the market. So I'm not happy.
It is actually not an interesting one. Because I know there are many people like my friends who left this place to travel to distant places to just vote. And many of them called in disappointment and many were feeling very, very terrible. I also have a friend who traveled from US and came back. He was not feeling very good about the whole thing, and myself, I was really prepared for whatever is going to come out, fights or whatever it is, like Nigeria is already making it look like.
Yeah, I felt a little disappointed, but since it's an act of God, let's just take it in good faith for the postponement of the election. Just for maybe 5 days from now, we'll be at the polls. So, and the INEC chairman gave us the genuine reason why he postponed the election, which is within the precinct of the law. He didn't do anything deviating from the law, establishing it. So he gave us the good reason for the postponing of the election.
I am not happy with the postponement of the election. I had already taken my bath and I was going out. Then I heard the election has been postponed. Even after the news, we all came to the markets to open our stores, but everywhere was deserted. There was no one to buy from us. It affected our business seriously. Some of us had to travel very far to our villages to vote. Now I doubt if I can go back again, because there is no money to do so.
They have a reason for the postponement. It is not compulsory, we know why. They have given their reasons and we don't have a problem with that. Although our businesses were affected, also some people had to travel outside the state to go and vote, and now it is going to cost them a lot. It affected our business because we thought we only had Saturday to spare, then begin sales on Sunday, but we couldn't make any sales.
Well, similarly, residents in Lagos State, southwest Nigeria, have also expressed their displeasure in the postponement of the election. In a chat with TV360 Nigeria, Nigerians condemned the move, saying the shift should have been announced much earlier and not suddenly.
Because of their selfish interest, that is why they postponed the election, but it will not work for them. Look at the way they paralyze all the whole Nigerians' activities. You understand me? Today now, people are supposed to have their wedding, go to their business. Since yesterday, they paralyze everything. Nothing is working in Nigeria. As a surprise to all Nigerians, it's not up to 24 hours to all the whole world. It's a surprise. How can you postpone the election? Just 12 o'clock. About how many hours?
About 3:30.
It's bad.
I've already prepared for it. I live at T4. Now I slept over just because of the election. I registered in Ikeja here. So I was surprised. This morning I heard the news that the election has been cancelled. I don't know why. They should tell us why. They should tell us why, the reason why, the concrete reason. We don't have concrete reason. What are they be doing? We have been preparing for this election for how many months now? Why do you just 12 hours to the time, or 14 hours to the time, they cancel it? Look at business paralyzed now, because some people are at home. Some people think that the election is still going to hold. They are at home. There is no business going on today.
Getting up this morning, we had a sudden news that the election has been postponed. Because I see it that I began to ask myself, I said, what's happening? Just an hour to a few hours to the masses going to the poll, and all of a sudden that the election has been cancelled. It's a big surprise to everybody, because look at, like in schools, for some days now schools have been halted, and then to resume next week. So what's going to happen to the students that have been at home? So they are going to stay additional 1 week. You understand? It's madness, because this election has been prepared about 3 years ago.
Well, following these reactions, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has tendered an unreserved apology to Nigerians. The commission says it regrets the postponement of the presidential election scheduled for Saturday, 16 February 2019. INEC chairperson Mahmoud Yakubu expressed the disposition at a stakeholders meeting at the International Conference Center in Abuja.
I want to appeal to Nigerians and all other stakeholders for their understanding in what has been a very difficult decision for the Commission. Our decision is entirely taken by the Commission. It has nothing to do with security, nothing to do with political influence, nothing to do with availability of resources. We believe that ultimately this decision is good for our democracy and for our country. I wish to assure you of our commitment to free, fair, and credible elections. As chairman of INEC, and on behalf of the Commission, we take full responsibility for what happened, and we regret any inconvenience our decision might have caused.
Meanwhile, INEC says it has retrieved sensitive materials already distributed in most states of the Federation. The Commission, through its spokesperson, says the materials have been moved to the central bank in their respective states for safety and will be redistributed in due time. Some of the states where this withdrawal has occurred include Lagos, Anambra, Enugu, Kwara, and Plateau states. Sensitive materials had been distributed to states for the presidential and National Assembly elections, which has now been postponed to February 23rd. And civil rights activist Deji Adeyanju has finally regained his freedom after 67 days in detention. Adeyanju was earlier today granted bail to the tune of 500,000 naira and one surety in like sum by the Kano State High Court. The court also ordered him to deposit his international passport. Now, the activist was arraigned by the Nigeria Police Force on charges bordering on culpable homicide. He has pleaded not guilty to these charges. And news now will continue in just a moment. Don't go away.
It's another important time in our country's history
when we head to the polls to decide our future.
You and I have the power to choose our leaders, but we can only do this when we exercise our right to vote. Every single vote matters, and I mean yours.
Don't sell your power.
Say no to vote buying. Say no to electoral violence. This message was brought to you by
TV360 Nigeria.
When last you vote?
Oh yeah. When last you vote for the person where you get for mind say go sabi work?
Not be person wey find you something, no.
Okay now, you register to vote?
So you don't collect your PVC? I beg, make we not be like Esau, we selling birthright though.
Make we shine our eyes this election period.
Make we stamp only people we will know say then get better mind for Nigeria.
This message.
That's TV360 Nigeria.
Glad to have you back. Well, let's now talk business with Annetta Felix. Hello, Annetta.
Hello, Fidelia.
So there's been a rise in the nation's reserve. Could you tell us more about this?
That's right. The nation's foreign exchange reserves had fallen to $42.86 billion. And that's the lowest level in 2 months. And it's according to latest data from the Central Bank of Nigeria. The reserves, which stood at $43.174 billion on January 31st, dropped by $314 million in 2 weeks to $42.86 billion in February 14. Now, the external reserves had risen to a high of $47.865 billion on May 10, 2018, but plunged to $41.523 billion on November 22nd. Now, on December 13th, the reserve stood at $42.877 billion. According to the report, recent history suggests that election cycles are associated with decreased external reserves and increased forex demand. Now, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, has directed its members nationwide to reduce petroleum pump price from 145 naira to 140 naira per litre. Chinedu Okoronkwo, national president of the association, made this known in a statement on Sunday. Okoronkwo said, quote, IPMAN was prompted to slash 5 naira from the 145 naira per litre official petroleum pump price in a bid to motivate Nigerians to return to vote again on February 23rd. We urge all our members across Nigeria to immediately reduce the fuel pump price from 145 naira per litre to 140 naira per litre, end of quote. Now, the price slash will be effective between February 20th and February 25th. Okoronkwo explained further that the price slash was to make it cheap for Nigerians to travel again to vote on the new election dates. Oil prices rose to their highest levels in 2019 on Monday, lifted by OPEC-led supply cuts and U.S. sanctions on Iran and Venezuela. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude oil futures hit $56 per barrel for the first time this year, before edging back to $55.989 per barrel. International Brent crude futures hit a 2019 high of $66.61 per barrel early on Monday, before easing to $66.47 per barrel, still up 0.3% from their last close. Now, for both benchmarks, those were their highest levels since November 2018. And the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, as well as some non-affiliated producers like Russia, agreed late last year to cut output by 1.2 million barrels per day to prevent a large supply overhang from swelling more. So we'll take a break now, and when we return, it will be the stock market review. Do stay with us. The Nigerian stock market began the last trading week on a positive note and maintained a bull's market for 4 of 5 market days. Now, it's another trading week today at the back of election postponement controversies, and the Nigerian Stock Exchange is sinking deeper by minus 1.61%. The consumer goods sector is the top of gainers today, as Lesson Nigeria PLC, Better Glass, and Presco, of course, CAP PLC as well, increasing. We see that Nestle Nigeria PLC is increasing by 2.24%, and that means that its share price is up. Of course, its last close was 1,565 naira, and today the stocks of Nestle PLC is now selling for 1,600 naira. Now, on the flip side, we see that the percentage laggards is led by the oil and gas sector. We see Total PLC and Mobil also making the top losers chart, losing by minus 7.32%, minus 7.61%, minus 9.64%, and minus 3.82%, respectively. Now, let's talk the top traders on the stock market today. Now, we see that Axis Bank's merger with Diamond Bank is making both banks the most sought after in the stock market, as over 25 million shares were sold today, valued over 160 million naira. Now, on the global stock market, we see that London's FTSE remains in the red, down at 0.11%, and that's to close at 7,228.59 basis points. And Hikma Pharmaceuticals is the main faller today, down at 3.16%. Also, the U.S. stock markets are closed today in observance of the President's Day holiday, while Japan's Nikkei is winning, jumping by 1.82% to wrap up at 21,281.85 basis points. And that's it for you from here, Fidelia.
Well, thank you so much, Annetta. It's sad to see that there's a decline in the reserves and a decline in the value of Nigeria's stock markets.
That's true. We hope that maybe after the elections are done with, the stock market can begin to look up.
Yeah, let's hope. Well, we'll take a short break here and return with news from the foreign and sports scene. Don't go away.
Corruption not in my country. It's about the files your secretary presented to me regarding the company salary. Yes, the figures don't seem to add up. I suspect there's some form of a
discrepancy.
Precisely, sir.
Keep the figures that way.
That's fraudulent, sir.
That's my money.
I'm sorry, sir. I can't do that, sir.
See how padded your cheeks are. Are you telling me you cannot pad up figures?
Sir, padding is against best auditing practices, and it's a form of corruption.
It's true. Accountant.
You were testing. Thank you, sir.
That's it. Macaulay.
Yes, sir.
You are fired.
Yeah. Fine, sir. Rather than watch corruption grow under my watch. Padding is a form of corruption and not in my country, sir.
Corruption not in my country. Stop corruption now.
Well, Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki has cancelled plans to send a delegation to Jerusalem. Well, this is coming after alleged racist comment made by the acting Israeli foreign minister. Poland's foreign minister had been chosen to replace the prime minister at a meeting on Monday and Tuesday, but it has now cancelled the Polish participation altogether. Poland's withdrawal from talks has now triggered the collapse of the summit with the four nations known as the Visegrad Group. And the National Basketball Association NBA is launching a professional basketball league in Africa that will feature 12 teams from several countries across the continent. The league will debut next year and will be referred to as the Basketball Africa League. It will include teams from several African countries, including Angola, Egypt, Kenya, Morocco, Nigeria, Rwanda, Senegal, South Africa, and Tunisia. South African athlete Caster Semenya is accusing the International Association of Athletics Federation, IAAF, of breach confidentiality regulations ahead of her appeal hearing on Monday. The 800 meters double Olympic champion is seeking to overturn a new set of IAAF regulations that are aimed at lowering the testosterone level of hyperandrogenic athletes. At the appeal being heard at the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Switzerland, Semenya believes the IAAF breached confidentiality rules of the hearing after they released the names of the 5 expert witnesses. Well, that is our news now. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I am Fidelia Aguncha. Bye for now.